your wish. Yes, sure, fine, whatever.
Get out of my timeline!
That's better. Salutations from the Dapper Pancake, and welcome back to Piklopatches! Piklopatches 1.2 to be exact. Before we begin, if this is your first Pikloment type video, I highly recommend watching the original Pikloments video followed by Piklopatches 1.1. Link in the description. I feel watching those would make this video make a lot more sense, for the intro pretty much ends right here, for there's a good amount to talk about. Here's a little table of contents if you have a specific area you're more interested in than the others. With that being said, Pikloments, baby! We are starting off with the type changes. This section will go over any updates to the types and or the changing of types regarding the creatures. So let's dive in. Cosmic. The name alone just sounds so cool to me. However, it doesn't really work. All creatures with the cosmic type have some type of control of the Pikmin, whether that's making them stronger or leaving them in a state of confusion. Therefore, I think it's fitting to change the cosmic type to the hypnotic typing. This does hurt, for I have to give up the cosmic name, but it must be done. I'm still keeping the color though. Next up, I want to talk about the albino dwarf bulborb. While it is the next step from the larva, I don't think it needs the plain typing, for it's already stronger than most creatures that have this typing, and yet since it's the evolution of the larva, I think I just decided to give it the same typing. While the shade typing suits them much better, for it spends most of the day underground, only becoming more active at night. With this change being made, it does mean the orange dwarf bulborb goes from plain shade to just plain. This is still a bread bug mimicking the dwarf bulborb, and it has no special indications to make it stand out. While we're at it, let's talk about the actual orange bulborb. I really wanted to fight for the orange bulborb to be grub and shade, but it just makes no sense. Sure, you don't see them as much and they're usually found in caves, but the only difference with them compared to the bulborbs is that they're just lighter sleepers. This does make them more aware than your average bulborb, but that doesn't mean they prefer the dark. So with that being said, the orange bulborb will now be a mono grub type, just like the normal bulborb, with the totally proof of concept ability, Eyes of the Insomniac, meaning it can wake up quicker than most creatures. Let's talk about the creepy chrysanthemum and the startle spore. For I had the ensnare typing replaced with the mimic typing, since these creatures don't really ensnare their prey. They just mimic either plants or spores and just wait for the right moment to strike at their prey. So I think the secondary mimic typing does suit them a little bit better than the ensnare typing. The same can be said for the sun squish and fulix. I know these creatures have more of an ensnare-like quality to them, however, both the mimic and ensnare typing are trait types, and a creature can't have two trait types. So at this point, we see that they mimic first and then ensnare, because of their slime-like body. Another one that you guys brought up to my attention that I was just too stubborn to admit has to do with the lesser and greater spotted jellyflow. For I gave them the secondary shade typing, while the obvious fact should be that their secondary typing should be the ensnare typing, for there is no proof that they dislike sunlight, and these jellyfish should literally suck up your Pikmin and trap them. The fact that I didn't give them the secondary ensnare typing was just me being nitpicking and biased. Yet another creature I wanted to go over that was probably on nobody's radar is the Wattlequaff. For it uses the Gale Pikloment to create a strong wind that can force creatures and items alike into its mouth, beak, hole, circle thing. I do think the Wattlequaff knows what it's doing. Thus, I want to give this creature more love, for I think it should gain the secondary glutton typing. I mean, look, it literally gets more r/chonkers as it eats more stuff. If you argue this one, but I'm going to get mad. Please don't argue this one. Let them have this. And the final type changes I want to go over has to do with the Smoky Frog and Mamuta, since they are kind of the same creature. Okay, let me back up and explain a little bit. Let's start with the Smoky Frog egg. I'm changing that from hypnotic flora to just flora. I decided to take away the hypnotic typing and just keep it flora, for technically you don't know what's coming out of the egg, since it's stated by Olimar that Smoky Frogs come from Mamuta egg. Boblacks. Thus, I thought it'd be fun to create a split evolution of sorts, meaning the egg itself can turn into either the Mamuta with the Flora Hypnotic typing, or a Smoky Prog with the new typing of Flora and Ruinous. I added the Flora typing to this Ruinous creature because it seems like with the information we have, Smoky Progs are a type of Mamuta. Now that we have addressed the number of changes, I think we should finally talk about the legendary in the room. The legacy typings, to be more precise. The legacy typings are a new category of Pikloments. Consider these like legendary typings when compared to the others. They each represent a rare and strong component of a creature or creatures from their respective entry. Starting with the Ravenous typing. This trait typing is given to the creatures that have destructive power that rivals those of the Ruinous typing. But rather than pure destruction, this comes in the form of devouring everything that moves. So far, the only creature with this Pikloment is the Sovereign Boblacks, for his entry dates back to Pikmin 1. Next up is the Rekindle typing. This RPG typing is given to the creatures that are able to come back from the brink of death just as strong as they were, if not stronger. This regenerative ability makes these creatures very lethal. The two creatures that have this typing are the Gatling Groink and Spotty Bowbear. The respective entry is Pikmin 2. Next up is the Crystal typing. This elemental typing is given to the creatures that have a type of crystallization formed on the inside or outside of their body. There are multiple creatures that have this typing. However, we would need to take a look into the world of Pikmin 3 in order to discover those creatures.
Hey, don't forget about me, Scattercheck. I have that typing, and I'm in Pikmin 4.
Nobody asked you. Onward to Pikmin 4, which brings the Canine typing. Canine typing is a species typing given to all space dogs in the world of Pikmin. TLDR, doggos are a species, called dogs. Another name for dogs are canines. This is probably the most self-explanatory of the bunch. And finally, we have the Surge typing. Think of the Surge typing as the legacy of legacy typings. I don't think that actually makes sense. The Surge typing is given to the creatures that have the power to utilize multiple elements. Thus far, this type is given to the Titan Dweevil, Plasm Wraith, and Ancient Sirehound. For all three of these creatures can use multiple elements. Now you may be wondering, is the only thing that makes these legacy typings is the name and fresh coat of paint? Well, yes, but no. For each of these typings have what's called a totally proof of concept legacy mechanic. In order to explain even further, we need to take a look at the totally proof of concept battle simulator. Welcome to the simulation. Let's start with Ravenous, with the legacy mechanic, Adaptive Appetite. You see, creatures with the Ravenous Pikloment get an exclusive move called Devour, a move with 50 attack power. Not too strong, but not too weak. However, it's what the move does that makes it shine. Devour states that the creature will attempt to eat the opposing creature. If said creature is taken out by this move, the creature then gets devoured and enters the dum-dum of the ravenous creature in question, thus proccing Adaptive Appetite, which states that whenever you devour a creature, you get a stat boost of their highest base stat. So let's say the Sovereign Boblacks uses the move Devour on this miniature Snootwhacker. The move drops the Snootwhacker's HP to 0, which now procs Adaptive Appetite. Since in this super real simulation the Snootwhacker's highest stat would be defense, the Boblacks now gets a boost in their defense. Pretty broken if you ask me, but we're just getting started. Next up is Rekindle, with the legacy mechanic, the Undying. When a creature falls in battle with the Rekindle typing, they return to the back of the party. For every turn that now passes, the creature recovers 5% of their max HP, until they reach full HP. Basically meaning that this creature will never go down and will probably be the last creature in your party at all times. While this may sound broken, remember, if the creature with the Rekindle typing is your last creature, there would be that one turn where your captain is exposed and will take serious damage. To which, if you bring out your creature after that one turn, they will only have 5% of their HP. Another thing to add, if the rekindled creature falls in battle by burning, shattering, poisoning, being devoured, etc., these would overwrite the rekindling effect, for these are special KOs. Next is Crystal, with the legacy mechanic, Crystallized Protection. CP gives all creatures with the crystal typing a protective shield that absorbs all damage until taken out. Damage will never leak from CP to a creature's actual HP. Example, say this Scutterchuck with 50 HP and 20 CP gets hit by an attack that would do 100 health points of damage. No matter what, the crystal would absorb all of it and then break due to being out of HP, leaving the Scutterchuck unharmed. Or so you may think. When a crystal breaks, a debuff occurs called Crystallizing Rupture. Not only does this change the creature's crystal typing to plain, but the rupture also damages everyone in the vicinity, dealing 10% of the crystal's max HP. So in this case, the Scutterchuck not only loses their crystal typing, but also loses 2 HP. This doesn't seem that lethal, yes, but remember, not all crystals will have the same HP. Next up, the Puppers. With the legacy mechanic, Man's Best Friend. Canine typing is both a supportive and offensive type, depending on how you use it. You see, whenever your captain is exposed, they can be attacked. However, creatures with the canine typing will jump in and protect the captain without fail. The second part of this mechanic comes into play with the attack scaling of canine moves. You see, none of them have an actual attack power stated. This is because their attack power is based on the bond you have with your canine. No bond, meaning these attacks will have an attack power of 10, while max bond will give them an attack power of 100. Note, this only applies to canine based moves. So if a canine uses, let's say for example, a militants type attack, that bond won't scale with it. I don't think the bond would actually do anything for this move, but I digress. And finally, yet again, we have Surge, with the legacy mechanic, Elemental Capacitor. This plays directly into the Surge type itself. Whenever a creature uses an elemental move, it would cause the Surge to change depending on the element that was used. What these Surges do is combine the resistances, weaknesses, and immunities of the Surge type with the element in question. Type sharp in the description. So let's take the Sirehound, who currently has the Canine and Surge typing, thus making it resistant to Aqua attacks. It now uses the Fireball attack, which causes the Surge to change to Flame Surge before the actual attack connects, now making Aqua attacks do normal damage, since Surge is resistant while Cinder is weak to it. These Surges are probably the closest way one can have 3 typings at once, compared to 1 to 2 typings. Okay, that's enough with the totally proof of concept. Battle Simulator. With all this being said, we can all agree that Pikloments has the potential to become more than just funny haha elements. Therefore, I think abilities should go from a proof of concept to an actual thing implemented into the Pikloments. Whether you want it or not, we still have time before I even dabble with abilities. And that's because, before abilities, I must first finish off the Pikloments. Sure, we finally gave every creature in Pikmin 4 elemental typings, but we still have 4 more games to go. Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and hey, Pikmin! If you have any other types or ideas, do not be afraid to shout them out in the comments. I still have a long way to go, and more typings are still on the table. I could already think of 2 additional typings to add to this list of typings, but I'll refrain from now. If Pikloments is something that interests you, I highly recommend you subscribe to stay up to date. And with that, I must depart and work on some more Pikloment fun. But before I do, I have one more request. From me to you, through and through, I want all of you to stay Dapper.